Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Most companies still think marketing is about impressions. Today's guest is measuring something far more important, whether AI even knows you exist. Michael Rueckert is the founder of Sentium AI and head of marketing at Snowbasin Resort, where he helped take the brand from outside top 30 to number 1. This conversation is about the future of visibility, not just marketing. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. Let's hear all about your story and how you got to where you are.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to talk to you. My background is largely sports, outdoors, hospitality marketing. I've been in this for about 10 years. Started my career in college sports. I was president of the student section at the University of Utah and loved just that experience, being around sports and events, and began my career there. Did some great things. I led marketing for 12 different sports during my time. Most of my time was with football and gymnastics teams. Then I switched. I'm based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. The ski industry here in this market is massive. It's one of the biggest drivers of tourism to the state. We're an Olympic city. And so I shifted to one of the ski resorts about 7 years ago. And I've been head of marketing for Snowbasin Resort since. It is one of the top ski resorts in the country. We were actually just ranked number 1 last year. And I've been leading that brand for a while. We've had a tremendous amount of success there. Salt Lake is a very competitive ski market with 12 ski resorts within an hour of the city. We've had some really great campaigns and things that have, I guess you could say, put us on the map. We've won some awards. My team was named Marketing Team of the Year. We were named Marketing Disruptor of the Year, and there was a lot of great things. And I'm always thinking about, I think, what's next. And AI is obviously what's next in the world. And I had this light bulb moment probably about a year ago. And it was coming from the perspective of leading a brand and seeing the rapid explosion of AI adoption and thinking about, well, how is that going to impact us? And I think everybody early in the AI phase was thinking about, AI could write emails for you and blogs and, whatever it may be. And I started thinking about this more as a customer marketing channel. And if people are using AI to make travel decisions and business decisions, how do you make sure that they recommend you? And so that led me down this long journey of building Sentium. And Sentium now has over 100 brands using the platform, and we help brands understand what AI thinks about them and ultimately what they could do to make AI their brand ambassador.
Amazing. So is Sentium outside of Snowbasin Resort? Is that a separate entity?
It's a nights and weekends type of project. I manage both right now. It's very difficult, but we're doing it. And it's kind of my side venture that I've been doing. And it benefits Snowbasin. Snowbasin uses the software and has dramatically improved in AI visibility as a result of just having that insight, in-house there at the resort.
Talk to us about why this is so important and where the hospitality world in general would be without a software like yours.
Yeah. So AI is the most rapidly adopted technology of our lifetime. And the metrics are staggering when you look at the adoption curve of what we're seeing right now. ChatGPT in December announced that they're at 900 million weekly active users. They were at like 300 or 400 million in April. And so they more than doubled just in the span of about 6 months. Gemini is seeing the same thing. Google shifted traditional Google search into, AI integrated search as, kind of the default that happens now on all search. And the ground is rapidly shifting underneath our feet. And hospitality and so many other brands are reliant on search to find them. You're searching for a hotel in a city and you often start with a Google search. And there's so many businesses where Google is the main path of receiving customers. And so something that has been so fundamental in business for however long Google's been around, 20 years or so, seeing this just rapid shift it's significant. And so businesses want to get ahead. They want to make sure as customers shift to new channels that they're being represented well. And I think some come at it from a space of fear, maybe the threat in the SWOT analysis, but I think some come at it with a very opportunistic mindset and think about it as an opportunity in the SWOT analysis and an opportunity opportunity to get ahead of competitors. And as customers shift into new channels, maybe they can be the leader in that space. And so it's been great to help brands get ahead of that transition into AI.
Give us a snapshot into what that would look like, a scenario, either with Snowbasin or, a customer experience where they would search on AI and then that would mean revenue, that would mean ROI for the business.
Of course. And so I lead Snowbasin. I also work with a couple of hotels in California and Arizona in our corporation. And so I've seen a lot of data in the hospitality space. And for most businesses that I've worked with, the primary way a customer gets to your website is Google. More people will Google you than will type directly your website URL. And so that is the main pathway that people find you. And even just a percentage point or two shift in Google is pretty dramatic for most businesses. There's a reason why most brands are spending a significant amount of their advertising budget in just paid Google search. And so ChatGPT and AI models enter the arena and they're variable. They don't always answer the same. It's a very different algorithm, certainly, than traditional search. There's similarities, but it's more like the cousin of search. And so what Sentium does is we create a massive data set for a brand to understand what's happening on that platform. And so, you talk about a scenario, it could be you're looking for a hotel in downtown San Diego, for example. Most people would start with a Google search and maybe there's 3 paid listings at the top and then there's some listings that they could click through and it's kind of a one-to-one process. You click a link, go back, click a different link. AI will take everything it's indexed over the history of the internet and the intelligence behind the model, and then it will also go search and grab 25 different links, aggregate all of those answers into one response for a person. And it's far more dynamic. It takes a lot more sources into account. And so what Sentium does is we run hundreds of prompts and we aggregate all of those sources and all of those insights and give a brand a dashboard that tells them how often they show up, how often their competitors show up, but then probably most importantly, where AI looks when it answers these questions. It's like, if you're looking for a hotel in San Diego, these are the places that AI likes to go source content from so that a brand leader can position themselves accordingly.
So with the shift, a major shift in experiential resorts and hotels and that kind of stuff, AI, I would imagine, would dominate, right? And people would do more search, say like, I want to do a healing retreat or whatever that is. Where are the best places, within a 3-hour flight, to find that? How is that impacted by what you're doing, like what you're seeing, and what's next on that horizon?
I think since, ChatGPT came out in, it was late 2022, when at least ChatGPT went public. Ever since AI has come out, hospitality has been kind of the first use case people have talked about. Like, oh, it can plan your vacation for you. It's a tedious process. I don't think anyone thoroughly enjoys it. And hospitality has been one of the first things that people have always just said, like, oh, I would love if it would just plan a vacation for me. And I think that is one of the first cases to be disrupted. I think it's going to be a whole lot more than that. But what we're seeing right now is people are moving, or they're at least supplementing their Google searches with AI searches. Google actually has not seen a decline in search volume. A lot of it's probably because they're integrating those AI results into search and they've kind of protected themselves. But we know people are searching on Google and they're also searching on AI models. And they are using that as a research channel. And some people are booking directly. There are some platforms that you can book direct through LLMs. ChatGPT has integrated with Expedia and Booking.com. And there are some other hotel booking engines as well that have integrated. And so you see that search shift. They're doing research on this different channel. And where I think this goes is agentic AI, where AI actually starts making these decisions for you, or at least helps compile everything for you to perhaps approve. So that San Diego example, maybe I'm going on vacation to San Diego and my AI agent will help outline an itinerary for me from hotels to transportation to some restaurant reservations. And maybe I click a button to approve, or maybe it does it on its own. I think we move into this space of having to search for everything you want and AI being a little bit better about predicting what you do want and bringing it to you. Like, I see that you've booked a flight to San Diego. Here's some restaurants. Do you want me to book? I think it's going to get quite a bit more integrated. And so at that point, when AI gets into this decision-making kind of authoritative position, what it thinks about your brand becomes really important.
So what does that mean in terms of when you are advising brands and tell them, what, this needs improvement? Like, what are you seeing in terms of the gap between, okay, here, in order for AI to recommend you, you need to be doing this, this, and that so that you can be number one and continue to stay number one and, ahead of the curve.
So AI is feeding on human signals primarily to learn and to train. They've essentially fed the history of the internet to these things. They convert all that content into text. They calculate associations between words. You get really deep into how AI models are trained and how they work. There's a lot of correlation on, what you're going to see on the internet about what humans think, and AI comes to pretty similar conclusions because it's relying on everything humans have ever written about it. The problem is brands that don't have that digital online presence will struggle. I think there's a lot of brands that will rely on a customer comes in, they stay at the hotel, they really enjoy their experience, and they keep coming back, or they tell a friend. And AI can't experience the products. The only way AI could experience the product is by relying on what people say online. It has to read reviews, and it has to read rankings and guides, and that's what it relies on. And so I think when we ask AI for recommendations in any business, whether it's hotels, whether it's financial businesses, Sentium's worked with over 100 businesses, so we've seen quite a few industries. AI is quite good at identifying market leaders generally. The brands that have the opportunities or that need to play catch up are the ones that probably don't have the best online presence. And so then this becomes a game of how do you take your brand ambassadors? How do you take people that are satisfied with your product? And how do you get them talking about you online? And this is kind of fundamental marketing things, but you start to emphasize review platforms. PR becomes very, very important. AI likes to go to these credible market leaders in any industry. Who are the key opinion leaders? Who are the experts? And it likes to cite those media stories, those blogs, those best of lists. We see that as a heavy signal to AI. And so the gap and the opportunity for a business becomes about how can you get more content about you online so that AI can receive that signal. And some of the biggest opportunities are in reviews and media, and then really telling your story on your website as well, and giving AI the type of content that it's looking for.
Well, how do you develop the content, right? Like if you can't just pull it out of thin air. And from my side of things, from the interior design and brand presence side of things, you have to create content that's worthy to be talked about and an experience that's worthy of 5-star reviews and brand ambassadors and all of that kind of stuff. I'm a big believer in this online to offline experience where they're seeing what the property looks like online, and it's developing that brand story that pulls them in, gets them to want to book and to come there and stay there for longer or come back again, and gets them to be so excited by the experiential side of things that people are so looking for and so craving today that they're going to go online and talk about it, right? And then shout off the rooftops, tell their friends and tell everybody that they need to also go.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. I was actually giving a lecture at the University of Utah yesterday. I was asked about this, and it was like, well, do you pivot everything you're doing and just focus on AI? And I don't think that's the best approach, because AI is feeding on human signals. And I think it could be easy in time period to be distracted and really go deep in optimizing everything for AI. But I'm totally with you there. I think you need to start with a good product experience. You need satisfied customers that enjoy that experience. You need to push those customers into online channels to talk about you. Whether it's a just review platform or whether it's media, you need people talking about you. AI receives those signals, understands the credibility, and starts to reinforce that narrative. I'm with you. I think you can try to fake it. You can try to send these fake signals to AI, but ultimately at the end of the day, you really need to start with a great product, satisfied customers that could go talk about you online.
Absolutely. I think it's imperative. If you don't have that product, that is how every business starts, right? They can't survive if they don't have that first product that the customer ultimately wants. We can create things, but if they don't want it, then they won't be engaged and satisfied with it.
Absolutely. AI does have the ability to interpret images as well. When you talk about interior design, I think when AI models were trained, they were primarily trained on text. They calculate associations between words and things like that. But as they continued to get into more advanced reasoning, I'm sure they'll understand somebody's particular taste. Maybe I like more modern hotel rooms, and as it's helping me find hotels, it identifies those. I'm sure it will, like where the AI models are now, as bad as they will be. And that's pretty crazy to say, but just the adoption curve, I'm sure AI will probably become better and better at seeing those signals that you're talking about.
It's very exciting. How often do you see from all the hotels and businesses that you work with that they have that kind of 360 view and approach to business, where they understand the technology side of things and they understand the products side of things and the marketing side of things?
I think anybody that is thinking about AI visibility and optimizing towards it at this point in time, that they're ahead of the curve. I'd say most brands that that we work with understand this. Sentium's biggest customer are agencies. We work with quite a few agencies that represent some very major brands. And I think any brand that is to that level where they have agencies representing them, they're chasing PR, they understand the importance of being talked about online. I think they do have a very good 360-degree view. I think as this adoption curve continues to go and every business that's relying on Google search starts optimizing towards AI, I do think you will start to see probably a little bit of a wild west of AI generated content and slop and everybody trying to get their word out online to be received by AI. And it'll be interesting to see when I think everybody realizes what's happening and how that changes. I'd say the majority of the brands we work with right now and what we hear are, I think they're very savvy businesses that understand what is taking place on these platforms.
Does that also include the online experience side of things, the design side of things, like the in-person experience and overall marketing? Or is that, you think that they're just very tech forward?
Probably more tech forward. This entire process, anyone that works in performance marketing and starts to dabble in the space knows AI talking about you is great. That's the first step of a journey. But then if they click through the link or they go to your website, they still have to go through the rest of the process. And just getting somebody to a web page does not mean they're a customer at that point in time. You need good aesthetic, you need good design, you need an optimized purchasing flow. It needs to be easy. There's a reason why people buy from Amazon so easily. It's just very easy. So all those things matter. And I think that is a very tech-driven process, but it is also a very aesthetic-driven process. It's both.
Do you think that most businesses get that, like that they understand that, or are you still seeing that a lot of businesses are struggling to make sure those other pillars are in place also?
That's a great question. We are at the beginning of this measurement flow, and we haven't worked with brands all the way to the end. And so their time with us is at the beginning and understanding where they are with AI. And so we haven't gotten into that data. We haven't necessarily analyzed those parts of their business. So I probably couldn't say for sure, but go to plenty of websites out across the internet. I'm sure you see plenty of businesses that are probably overly optimized towards technology and maybe don't
under optimized. I mean, that's what I've seen. So I was just curious about your thoughts as well, because I really believe that you can't be fully optimized on the AI and marketing side of things if you don't have that good product first and foremost. It means that, and you proved that point in terms of the signals that AI is looking for with the reviews, that you can't have those good reviews, and therefore you can't index higher with AI if you don't have a good product first and foremost. And I think that there are a lot of properties that don't have consistent PIP, right? They don't have the things in place to modernize and stay ahead of the competition. There's always new brands that are popping up and that are creating that competition. And so if there's not a plan in place to consistently improve and stay ahead of the curve, I think ultimately a company, a business, a property will fall behind.
Absolutely. An analogy I like to use in hospitality is, let's say we have a restaurant and the restaurant is on a busy square on the street or something, and the menu is posted outside. And let's say for every 100 people that walk up and look at that menu, only 2 people enter the restaurant. If you're a restaurant owner, what would your perspective be? Would your perspective be, I need to bring more people to look at the menu? Or would it be, God, we really need to capture more people and we need more than 2 people going into the restaurant? I think if you think about it in this kind of physical world at a fundamental level, you would think probably need to improve the design, or I need to improve the menu. And that's conversion rates on a website. For every 1,000 people that go to your website, maybe 200 or maybe 20 are booking a room. That's, a 2% conversion rate. That is kind of an industry standard metric there. And so when AI talks about you, it's going to bring more people to the door to look at the menu on the restaurant. But then you need a compelling menu. You need compelling design, that it needs to look nice so that people come in and eat. And so I think it could be very easy to be very focused at the beginning part of this process of bringing people to the door, but you've got to go all the way and have something very compelling to get them to transact and finish the process.
Exactly. The conversion rates are everything. So I love that analogy, because that analogy can literally be online as well. Like, they come to your digital storefront, and are they going to be willing to purchase and to transact with you? And that depends on multiple different points in order to make that conversion number higher.
We're all running digital restaurants and trying to hook people that come up and look at our menus. And there are different menus offering different things.
What's one AI-driven insight that can immediately improve bookings?
It's a great question. We see trends across all businesses. And if we aggregate all of these together, there are certain signals that AI really feeds on. And I think if a brand is in hospitality, or we'll try to keep this general to any business, wants to maybe circle 3 things, I think it's most important to really focus on your reputation management and reviews, wherever reviews for your business take place. If you're in hospitality, those are taking place on platforms like Expedia and Google and TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is really a big signal to AI. If you're in technology and B2B, we see like G2 and Capterra. And if you're in consumer products, there are other consumer product review platforms as well. And so I think really focus on good reviews. It's going to help you with humans or AI. And so you're not taking a risky bet on something that, is not a crazy concept here. We're building flows where we're taking our satisfied customers and that they'll fall into automations where we're going to encourage them to review us online. So I think focus on reputation management is really important. Second is I would really double down on whatever you're doing in the media category and public relations. You need authoritative people talking about you. And I think a lot of brands view public relations and PR as maybe a nice to have, but not a need to have. And I think the gap with PR is it's difficult to track. You get impressions, you know it's good to be mentioned by outlets, but you don't see that conversion from A to Z. And as we see AI really feed on those PR signals, public relations really matter. And Sentium identifies the specific outlets you should be targeting, and it shows you the specific pages that AI is looking at. And we scan thousands of citations and we pull any that mentioned your brand. And so we'll put in, a folder, all of the different websites where AI is finding information about your brand. So I think reputation management is really important, from user reviews, PR, and authoritative users is really important. Number 3, I'd say, is just telling your story. There's this, I like to call this content amplification. I don't know the proper term or what it is, but when you have a win, you need to shout that win from the rooftops. And so if a media outlet says something great about you, or you get a great user review, take that content onto your website and create a page about it. We see this really magnify the amount of places where AI can find good stories. And now it's not just listed in this article, it's now listed in this article and your website. There's more places for AI to find this. And we see by amplifying content and increasing that quantity of really good story, AI starts to calculate these associations, and it does matter. And so don't forget to tell your own story. You can really get focused on getting into these other platforms and these other websites because those matter. But when you get those wins, take them onto your own website and create content to amplify those stories. And all of that is going to dramatically increase the amount of positive things AI sees about your brand online. And it indexes it, it learns on it, it trains on it. And then the next time someone's looking for a recommendation in your space, it matters and it's very impactful. And so I think those are probably 3 best things that I would recommend.
So it's a multi-pronged approach in order to make sure that you're indexed at the highest level through AI.
It's a similar theme across the board of people talking about you online and content online, because that's how AI learns. That's its training ground. That's where it goes to school. But multi-pronged approach on, you can't just rely on your channel, or you can't just rely on a third-party channel. You need this story being told in multiple places, because AI feeds on quantity of content, quality as well. You need to be mentioned by the right people in the right places. Sentium helps you identify those places, but then quantity really does matter as it starts to calculate associations in its training.
Do you think that that's like the number one biggest mistake that hotel owners will make, is not to have that multi-pronged approach? Or is there something else that, is up there in terms of money that they're leaving on the table, a mistake that they're making?
I think in the hotel industry, it can be very easy to just maybe sit back and let Expedia do its thing. And if they're looking for a hotel, we're an option, they will come. Hotel marketing can be difficult sometimes, where do you really fight this fight, or do you just rely on the platforms where they are searching and just maybe pay to boost and list yourself? And so there's this kind of battle in the hospitality space on doing your own marketing, doing your own demand generation versus just boosting yourself on the channels where they already exist. It can be very tempting to just put your money into Expedia advertising and just capture your share on that platform. You'll do fine. But by telling your story and building your own brand, that's going to have that staying power in its content that lives on the internet forever and trains AI. And so I think there's probably a lot of hotels that under index on marketing and rely on probably a natural search process that already happens, and they just boost themselves in that process. But as this shifts, I really do think you can't underestimate and you can't ignore telling your own story, so that this future decision maker, this future influential channel, it has to know about you.
Absolutely. I agree 1000%, because ultimately it's not just like an email list that's something that you own versus doing advertising on Facebook marketing or, LinkedIn or wherever it is that you're for SEO. Like, you have to convert people into an asset, and your brand is an asset that lives on. If you're just relying on other platforms and they change the algorithm, or they make it more expensive and then the margins decrease where you can't, you're not profitable anymore, then what do you do? If you don't own that asset of your brand, of that email list, of, the consumer base, then you're leaving so much money on the table, not to mention leaving the company, the business, the property very vulnerable to the whim whims of, and the shifts of the market and the softwares out there.
Agree completely. I think there's been a trend, but really ever since COVID and kind of a surge of buying where a lot of companies moved lower in the funnel and took all their advertising and creative and all their focus and they moved it to the bottom. And I think that worked for a while, but that's a one-to-one transaction that happens and leaves. And I definitely think building a brand is going to be very important for the future with these new platforms and these new models. As AI is essentially a travel agent. It's a travel agent. It's an expert gear reviewer for a company that sells equipment. It's whatever industry you're in. It's going to be the future expert in that space. And so how can you reach it? How can you tell your story to it?
So can you leave our audience with crystal ball moment where you're looking at the future 3 to 5 years from now? What will brands be doing differently? What will technology and hospitality look like?
So the innovation curve of AI is going to just continue to accelerate. If you look at any of the expert predictions, the phrase is like the singularity, where it starts to have greater intelligence than humans and starts to train itself, and it becomes a reinforcing narrative where adoption curve or the innovation curve rapidly accelerates up. And so I think the pace of innovation we've seen will only get faster. I think the models will only get better. I think they will only get smarter. And I think in the marketing space, I really think the end state here is agentic AI. And I think this might be a bold prediction. It might not be a bold prediction, but I think the days of searching for everything that we want, I don't think there's very many days left of that. I think it's going to be a lot more integrated. I think AI is going to be bringing you what you are looking for. And I think it will get to the point where I think AI is ultimately just making some of these decisions and AI becomes the customer. It's the customer acting on behalf of the human. Where right now the human is using the AI to research, I think it's going to flip and the AI becomes the customer for the human. A couple examples maybe that are easy to think about for this space. The holidays just wrapped. So a lot of people were buying gifts. Some people love gift buying. I personally don't. I would happily offload this to an AI agent. If it knew me and everything about me and it reads my text messages, that's probably a little more revealing than people would want to give it access to AI for. But if AI could take care of shopping for me for things like that, I would give it full autonomy to do that. Or maybe buying groceries. Let's say it knows what I like to eat. It knows the type of nutrition that I'm trying to get. And I come home from work and all my groceries are here delivered and AI took care of that process for me. Or maybe you have a flight and your flight is at 5 p.m. and AI knows that you're going to need transportation to the airport at 3:30 p.m. and it arranges that. It calls the Uber and it notifies you, hey, your Uber will be here in 5 minutes. I think those types of scenarios are not far-fetched to think about. And I think that's the space that we're going to be going into. There might be a different decision maker that we really need to start thinking about as marketers. And that's the perspective I have. And so I really care about what it thinks about me. I really care about what it thinks about my businesses. And that's why Sentium is out trying to measure that for people.
I love that. And I think that would be huge, especially, first of all, on an individual level, but also for businesses in the hospitality world where you have a guest coming to stay and AI creates, buys the groceries, and has it sent with Instacart or whatever it is. Maybe it's geared towards their specific diet, right? And their preferences, or, it orders the Uber for them to have them picked up from the airport and then so they're not taking care of any of that. It's already integrated. And that is a service that is offered as either an upsell or as a bonus from the hotel or resort that people would want to come stay there with them specifically versus another place that keeps them ahead of the competition because they have this integrated, the other place does not. So I love that.
What AI is lacking right now is memory. I think the next frontier of this, and I think any of the experts in this space and the models are trying to move in this space, really, they're very intelligent. They have very good short-term memory, the long-term memory, and really learning and understanding somebody, you have to build that context with the model. I think that's going to change. I think they're going to start to develop much better memory. And then they could start to really act on behalf of people. I think the future is agentic AI and search being less important, and it becomes a little bit more predictive and getting ahead of what you need.
If our audience wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, just go to Sentium.ai. It's Centium.ai. Our plans start at $99 a month to run mass prompts across 5 AI models and give you a pretty thorough report that helps you understand what you should be doing with AI.
There you have it. Wow. What an awesome conversation. So interesting for all our owners out there and businesses. You have to stay ahead of the competition, stay ahead with what's happening with technology, and you're going to be in it to win. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. It was such a pleasure having you on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.